Alright guys, so today I'm going to be supercharging my Tacoma. I'll be using a kit that came from this company, LCE Engineering. They're out in Lake Havasu. I think, as far as I can tell, they're the only people left that still distribute these superchargers. I think the actual manufacturer is somewhere in California. This kit itself, it's the low boost, so like 4 or 5 psi for the 3RZ FE engine. First things first, I'm following instructions for this whole thing too, which is a good idea, which you should do for everything. And it says to just take the battery out completely. So take the battery out completely. So next I got to remove this whole intake assembly here. So when you guys are doing this, I just realized, so this whole top piece, it has 2 studs on the bottom that screw into there. I can actually show you. There's one stud. The other stud's completely gone. So I just didn't have anything. It was just sitting there. But for you guys doing this, just remember you're gonna have to unscrew this thing from the bottom. So next on the chopping block is the EGR modulator, this guy. And just saying, right now, looking at all of this, I can tell that I'm gonna have a really big issue with like little vacuum lines. There's a ton on this, and there's not a ton of ports on the supercharger, so I'm not exactly certain where they're all gonna go. Ooh, but I'm sure it's been thought of. So right now, I'm going to remove the EGR valve completely. Disconnected from the 2 water lines. You can see the screwdriver shoved in them right there. So there's 2 connections. There is this up here, which connects the EGR body to the intake manifold, and then this down here, which connects it to the exhaust tube, the tube that goes to the exhaust manifold. So it's 2 bolts up here, 2 bolts down here, and then it should just pop out. There we go. There we go. So now we're really getting into it. The next step is to remove the whole throttle body, which is everything from there to there. There's 4 bolts, one there, another one down there, one in here, and then one way down there somewhere. So that is what's happening next. So it looks like there's some stuff under it that, ooh, then I'm gonna have to, so this hose, what is that hose for? I'm learning just like you guys. So I'm gonna disconnect those. Well, actually this one I don't have to disconnect, but I do have to disconnect the other one. And then there's this, whoops, there goes the camera. Oh, whatever, there's one more sensor over here too that I gotta disconnect. Oh, the sensor is easy. So the hose I'm going for is this one right back here. It's really hard with one hand. All right. Okay, well, here's the throttle body. Since I don't want to disconnect any of the, it's liquid water, you see. Since I don't feel like disconnecting any of these vacuum hoses, and they all kind of twist around back here. Ooh, got some slack. Excellent. So I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm just gonna let it sit there while I work over here. So the next step now, as you can see down here, there's a split. So this top half bolts onto the bottom half. So the next step is to take this top half off, but there's still a lot of little stuff like this diagnostic thing, some some wiring. Oh, that's actually connected to this other side. But anyways, there's that. There's brake booster hose, some other stuff back there. So that is next. So now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts down here at the mating surface that we got to unscrew. All right, so everything is off here. So now just gotta wiggle this whole thing back and forth. Is there something left on it? There is. Okay. Here's the problem. So there is a bracket underneath. It kind of starts down there and then goes and where does it connect to? It looks like it connects to the block. So we gotta unscrew the bracket, which is a 12, which is nice. Seems like everything today has been a 12. There it is. So now it should just come off. So you see what the problem is that that bracket is pushing right up against the intake manifold. So I'm gonna have to unscrew the bracket from the bottom too. Sometimes the only answers are a really big wrench and a hammer or a mallet, whatever. It's enough to where I can pull it off. So there's half of the intake. Maybe I can get you a better angle. So this bracket right here is what was in the way. It goes all the way down there. Have you ever gotten to the point in a project where you're not sure if it's ever going to run again? We're doing fuel pressure regulator. It's a good idea to get some towels to put around it in case you do just get gas everywhere. But hopefully you don't, because hopefully the system is depressurized. But you never know, there might still be a little bit of pressure under it, or it might still be under pressure. Alright, we hit the ground. We're good. Well, let's see what happens here. Excellent. So relieving the fuel pressure worked. You're still going to get some gas stuck in the lines, which is just fine. Next on the chopping block is this banjo fitting here. The other end goes to the fuel filter. This is the main feed for the fuel rail. So it comes in from the fuel filter up here into the fuel rail, and then returns from the fuel pressure regulator. So that's next. And this, because it has those two, it has the two crush washers, I'm going to put right back without dropping it a second time, hopefully. Alright, cool. There you go. Next step is to remove the intake manifold. So we're like kind of halfway there, sort of. There's so much stuff down there. I don't know how I'm gonna get that bottom back one. Alright, so I finally managed to get that one bolt that was way back there, so now it's time to just pull this whole thing out. See how easy that is. Oh, that was even easier than I thought it would be. Okay. Now what I gotta do is actually put the supercharger on. Oops, leaking some water. Actually put the supercharger on and see how the fitment works with all this. Alright, so I got everything cleaned up. I'm ready to bring it on over. The only problem I see is this fuel line, because it has to go through one of those little openings there. So I'm not sure. Gotta go through this last one, so maybe I can figure that out. But here goes nothing. I'm hitting everything, aren't I? Everything. Ooh. Yeah, boy. Yeah, we got problems. Oh, we got lots of problems. Okay, what is this? That's power steering. Okay. So, I don't know if you can see it, but the power steering right here, gotta go over there. So, unfortunately, what the problem is this metal line here. Because it's curving that way, it's not letting the pulley shaft, so the pulley shaft kind of hits it right here. So this whole thing needs to be moved to about over here, so that all this is sort of parallel with the truck, right? So what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to drain the power steering fluid. This is the whole power steering, blah blah blah. I have to drain the fluid and bend this somehow. Either bend it, or maybe if I can like angle it down or something. Alright, so two things for you guys. So this is the fuel filter, this is the inline, and this that I'm holding is the outline. So there's no way that this end will fit. This end goes up here on the fuel rail. This end goes down here coming out of the fuel pump. There's no way that this end is going to fit through the through these holes here. This is the hole it has to go through. So this is the top end. It just, because of that little thing on the end there, it's just not going to fit. Another thing, so the supercharger kit comes with a new bracket down here. There was a different bracket that connected to the bottom of the intake manifold that was more of a sort of a tube thing. This, you want to leave it a little loose. It's going to connect to this bracket down here. So you want to leave it loose, you want to leave this one loose, but then there's the problem again, is you're going to have to somehow get in there and tighten those up, which I will figure out and I will tell you. So, yep. So this is a little update. Alright, so pretend it's on the power steering pump right now. So you see how now the line pretty much comes straight down. So before, this metal tube here came out to this bend, out to that bend there, and then curved down this way. So originally it came down this way, and that was interfering with the shaft here. It would hit right here at the bottom. So what I had to do is I had to bend it out. So if you encounter this problem, I used a torch. I just heated this elbow up here, put it in the vise, and then just kind of bent it out. So you can see the pane is still a little bit messed up. Probably just gonna spray over that. Alright, we are on day 2 now. Sorry for the last couple videos, they were in the vertical format as opposed to horizontal. For some reason when I got back last night, I just forgot that I'm supposed to film it this way, not the other way. So, right now what I'm working on doing is getting that fuel line that goes in there actually on there, and the problem is this little tab here on the end. Because of the tab and the way it tries to sit on that top part, it's not letting me rotate it enough. So I'm gonna have to bend this tab up. Use some pliers to just try and bend it out of the way. Alright, so I got the hose back in. It needs to sit, it's going to be kind of touching up against the fuel rail just because the way that it angles because of the hole down here. Not much you can do about that, so I'm actually screwing, and I don't have the washers on yet. Do the bottom first, or at least get the bottom started before you start on this top part, and doing the bottom really sucks. Alright, I finally got them both on. So I don't know if you can't really see. So this was interfering with this, that's why I had to bend it up. Now it's on, so now I can tighten this end. I have the other end down there kind of screwed in just a little bit, just finger tight. The one thing, the one thing you got to be really careful when you're doing this is these crush washers here. So on the other end down there, I dropped one. It's gone forever, I don't know. I could take the supercharger out and find it, but no. I had some extras in the toolbox, so I just took one of those out and used that, but be really careful you don't drop any, because if you do and it doesn't hit the ground, Either you got to take the supercharger out or find another one. So just be careful with that. All right, the fuel hose is tightened and good to go, both top and bottom. So the next thing I'm gonna do is that bracket that I showed you guys earlier that sort of supports the supercharger from the bottom. I'm gonna tighten that up, which is gonna be the same sort of as the fuel line. You're gonna have to get your hand way in there and just kind of find an angle that works. After that, things should be getting a little easier. Also, I don't remember if I showed you, so this is that power steering line that had to get bent. Now it clears, it goes straight down, it's not hitting anything else. It also fits in the bracket that it used to be in, right there. That's the hose. So it looks like it's working. This one I'm still gonna have to figure out, but we'll get there when we get there. So I've got fuel line on, the brackets underneath actually holding it up essentially from the bottom. So now I'm just going to tighten all the remaining intake manifold bolts, which, if you notice, this fuel line is kind of in the way of that one. Hopefully I don't have to take the fuel line apart again. It looks like I'll be able to get around it with just a wrench, so fingers crossed for that. But I like to go inside out, so I'm going to start the center and then go through it. Alright, it's tight everywhere. Getting that very back bolt a little bit difficult, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the pulleys. That's the next step. It would work a lot better if you could actually take this off, but these holes let you get into the bolts that you need to get to because the bolts are there. But yeah. Actually, before we get to the pulley part, I did this last night, but it tells you to remove the fan shroud. That's the fan shroud. To do that, you're going to have to remove this upper radiator hose just because it pulls out to the top. But to do it, it's super easy. 2 bolts there, 2 bolts there. To drain this, there is... Dang it, you can't really see. Well, there's a drain down right there. That thing's sticking out. There's a knob. You unscrew it, drains to the ground, or drains down. I put it in a bucket. Just drain a little bit out. You don't need to drain too much because really you just need to get the water out of this top part of the radiator just so you can get this tube off, this hose off, and then you're good to go. So yeah, first things first, got to take the shroud off. Then you can start doing this stuff. So there's 2 bolts, one up here, one down in here. So the reason you have to do this is because there's an extra tensioner you have to put on here. Bolts onto these 2 spots right here. This would be a lot easier to get to do it with the pulley off, but alright, decided to go the way of unscrewing this. Now I just get one more thing out of the way, which will be nice, making everything else easier, you know. It's grooved. So your next step is to, so this is going to be a pulley. Your next step is to get this bracket, which is in the kit. Let's see, it shows it right there. So it's going to sit like this. Oh, I see what's going on. So there's this edge here. I didn't know what this was for. Now I know. All right, cool. Alright, so I'm trying to make some sense out of the instructions because they don't really cover this very well. So this is another tension pulley, I guess, you gotta put on. And I didn't really know what these 2 pieces were for. So the way this works, this top piece, it fits in the bearing perfectly. Clicks in there, bottom piece, same thing. This one's bigger because you need the spacing on it. That goes right there. Then there's 2 bolts that come with it. They're both the same size, so I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to use this one, but this washer isn't part of the kit. It's one of the extras I had. That goes on like that. And then this, it all attaches to this bottom hole right here. And another thing, so this black little thing that goes around, It's adjustable. There's an Allen wrench slot on the bottom. Oh, you can actually kind of see it right there. Unscrew that, adjust it so that it fits, so that it lines up with that other hole right there, and then tighten it back up. So it's all in there. This one's not on yet. I just put it on to make sure it was clearing that bottom one. Anyway, so this is what it'll look like. I was trying to visualize, like, okay, how is this exactly going to work with that belt? And there's nothing in the instructions. However, on the sticker, they do give you the diagram of how it's supposed to look. So there you go. Well, I got the belt on and it's working. So I'm gonna have to hold that somehow. Shove a wrench in there, maybe. Yeah, that'll work. And having those bolts out would work better. But so, anyways, the belt is on. This will have to get retensioned. The tensioner, it's over here. This guy. Retension that, and then I'm just gonna leave it. From here, the next step. What is the next step? All right. So the next step is power steering stuff. So yeah, this is good. It's power steering stuff. Then it's gonna be plugging everything in. So the next thing I'm gonna be dealing with now is just wiring. In the book, it says that a couple of these need to get wired underneath, specifically these two. But from the way that I'm seeing it, it would be fine on top. I might have to just route this whole thing the other way. Like, bring it in this way, and then hook it all up. So I finally got all these injector wires routed. I had to tape up the new thing. So what I said before is I was going to have to route it all the way underneath and have them come up this way. That didn't work, which was kind of upsetting, but I was able to get it. There's sort of a clearance in between. Yeah, okay, so there you go. So see, there's the clearance that comes up through there. It works if you route it through there, which if I would have done that to begin with, I might not have had to cut up all these wires and stuff. So just remember that when you guys are doing this, that just try and get it routed up through this clearing up here, and it'll reach them. The number one injector is still a little tight, but you know, I mean, it's got slack overall, which is good. The ground, this was originally somewhere on the intake manifold. This is kind of the best place for it. I could cut it up, find another spot for it, but figure that's as good a place as any. So right now I still have, let's see, this wire and these two that I need to do. These actually have to go underneath, so yeah. Alright, next on the chopping block, so let's see, what did I just do? I just got all the wiring done. Okay, so all the wiring is good. Next up, I'm going to get the EGR valve, which sits in here. This is the exhaust pipe. Leave it loose, so that way when you actually put it in, like so. So EGR valve is in. Now it has space for the return pipe to also go in. So there you go. I'm going to just tighten it up here. So I'm kind of getting to the end, not videoing as much, sorry, but I just kind of want to get it together and get going, you know. Just got the EGR on there. This is the, I don't know, supply return water line. Next is the, what is it, the airflow meter? Airflow, air intake, I don't know. I said it once at like the beginning of this and now I just keep forgetting. So that goes on next. Alright, progress. Come on. Oh, there it is. Success. That goes there. This is gonna stay up there. So right now you're just kind of plugging things in. Alright, it's finally starting to look like it used to. Dang it, throttle body. There it is, I got it. It's called the throttle body. That's back on. Looking good. looking great. EGR is on, all the connections are on. Next, this is just the EGR modulator. So there's little bracketed screws up here. I'm gonna do that next. So at this point, you're just sort of routing stuff. The modulator, EGR modulator goes on. Ooh. It's on there, looks good. Ooh. You can have a vacuum line that comes around. Yeah, you can do the brake booster too. Brake booster goes in here. This might be too long, I might have to cut this. But for now, we're gung-ho right now. We're full fast ahead, no matter what. We'll get the details ironed out later. Now we're just trying to make boost. And when you're getting this close, remember to refill the radiator. From that one time we had to take this off for the fan shroud. Oh, I put the fan shroud on already too. Didn't film that, I'm sorry. Remember to fill up your power steering pump as well, since you might have lost a bunch like I did. Next, I guess it's time to put all the stuff that goes in between the airflow sensor and the throttle body. Alright, well, here it is, quote unquote finished, aside from this vacuum line. But I'm looking everything over. I think I have everything tightened. One last thing that I do need to do, gotta put my boost gauge on here. To route it in, see that plug right there? That plug in the firewall? I'm gonna punch a hole in there and see where it ends up on the other side, and that's where I'm gonna route the little vacuum, or I guess not a vacuum because it's pressurized, the pressurized hose. Alright, it's not the most graceful install ever, but hey, it'll work for the time being.
This is the first run of the supercharger.
I think I have everything.
Well, let's find out.
Gotta get that fire extinguisher just in case.
Yeah, hold on. Hold on. Alright, you're good.
Alright. Alright, I'm about like maybe 100 miles into it, about half a tank of gas. Everything seems to be fine. I'm not sure if I mentioned before or not, but this vacuum hose coming off this power steering thing, the original wasn't long enough, and there was also no fitting in here. The supercharger just didn't come with one, it just came with a plug. So what I did is I went to just a hardware store, looked at different fittings, and just found one. But so far it's running well. It did take it, I don't know, maybe 15-20 miles until the boost was sort of noticeable. At first it was kind of, it did hesitate a little bit. I'm guessing it just, you know, it was just figuring itself out. The ECU was just figuring out everything. So far so good. I'm happy with it. As far as acceleration, it's not, I didn't really buy it for like 0 to 60. I bought it more just so I can go up hills without slowing down, like on the freeway, you know. So now I can go up hills at 70 miles an hour, you know, I don't have to downshift and go like 55. So it's working for what I bought it for, and I'm happy with it. So, yep, any questions, just let me know.